During a heavy downpour on an average American roof, 935 gallons of water per hour cascade off the edges into the ground. That water drops 10, 15, 20 feet, carrying energy that could spin a turbine and charge a battery bank. The physics has worked since the Roman Empire. A $40 setup captures it. Most homeowners have never heard of it. And by the end of this video, you will discover exactly why. Welcome back to Off-Grid Ohms with Oliver. If these buried building secrets matter to you, subscribe so you never miss what the power industry hopes stays forgotten. Picture the south of France around 170 AD. Near the Roman city of Arles sits a hillside carved with 16 overshot water wheels arranged in 2 parallel rows. This is the Barbegal Watermill Complex. Archaeologists studying the ruins published findings in the Journal of Roman Archaeology confirming this single facility ground 4.5 tons of grain every day. It fed 12,500 people, the largest known industrial complex in the ancient world. No coal, no steam, no electricity, just water falling downhill through engineered stone channels. The Romans understood something that modern homeowners have been trained to forget. Falling water carries energy. Capture the fall and you capture the power. By 1086, the Domesday Book recorded over 6,000 watermills operating across England, 1 mill for every 300 people. Most of those mills ran on 6 to 15 feet of head. That is the vertical distance the water dropped from the mill pond to the wheel, 6 to 15 feet. Remember that number. It is the same distance between a raised rain tank on your property and the ground beneath it. For nearly 2,000 years, civilizations built their economies on the simple physics of water dropping from one level to another. The equation has never changed. Power equals flow rate multiplied by vertical head multiplied by turbine efficiency. Flow is how much water moves through the system. Head is how far it falls. Efficiency is how well the turbine captures the energy. The United States Department of Energy publishes this formula in its Micro Hydropower Resource Guidelines. The variables are simple, the results are predictable, and every single rain event sends this energy cascading off your roof, through your gutters, and straight into the dirt, wasted every time. But how much electricity can falling rainwater actually produce? The math is simpler than the power company wants you to think. An average American roof spans about 1,500 square feet. During a moderate rainfall of 1 inch per hour, that roof sheds roughly 935 gallons. Engineers at the American Society of Civil Engineers document the standard runoff coefficient for asphalt shingle roofs at 0.95. Nearly everything that hits the surface comes off the surface. That gives you about 15.5 gallons per minute flowing down through your downspouts and into the mud. Now route that water through a small turbine mounted at 10 feet of vertical drop. At 50% efficiency, which is the real-world performance documented in Pico Hydro research published by Nottingham Trent University in the United Kingdom, you generate approximately 1.5 watts of continuous power during the rain event. That is enough to trickle charge a 12-volt deep cycle battery. An honest number, not a fantasy. Here is where the engineering gets interesting. Instead of running that trickle straight through a turbine, store it. Collect 500 to 1,000 gallons in an elevated tank or cistern, then release it at a controlled higher flow rate through a nozzle aimed at a turbine wheel. 1,000 gallons released through 20 feet of head over 15 minutes delivers approximately 124 watts. That single batch stores roughly 31 watt-hours in your battery bank. Run 3 or 4 batches per storm, and the numbers start compounding fast. Now scale it up. Properties with natural hillside elevation can position a cistern 100 feet above the turbine outlet. At that head, the same moderate rain event produces approximately 146 watts continuously. Picture a 2,500-gallon tank on a wooded slope behind a rural homestead. Water flows downhill through 4-inch pipe into a Pelton wheel spinning inside a small housing at the base of the hill. The generator hums, the battery bank charges, LED lighting runs through the night, a small refrigerator stays cold, phones and radios stay powered, all from rain that would have soaked into the hillside and disappeared. This is the exact configuration that Practical Action, the international development organization founded by economist E.F. Schumacher, has deployed across more than 3,000 installations in Nepal, Peru, Sri Lanka, Kenya, and Zimbabwe since the 1970s. These are not prototypes. They are working systems running right now on 6 continents, exposed to real weather and real wear, producing real electricity from nothing but water falling downhill. And none of this is even new to America. Before rural electrification reached most of the country, thousands of farm families generated their own power this way. The Rural Electrification Act passed in 1936, but full coverage took decades to arrive. In the years before the grid reached their valleys, families across Appalachia, the Ozarks, Pennsylvania, and upstate New York built small Pelton wheels fed by creek diversions and spring flows. Handmade turbines spinning salvaged direct current generators charged battery banks that powered lights, radios, fence chargers, and water pumps. Many of those properties used spring houses, stone or concrete structures built over natural springs and small stream channels. Water flowed through these buildings at drops of 8, 10, or 15 feet. Some drove butter churns and small grain mills. Others turned generators. Your grandfather or his neighbor likely knew someone who ran exactly this kind of setup. A wheel, a drop, a wire, and a battery. Those families did not have roaring waterfalls. They had a modest hill and a modest flow, and it was enough. Because they understood something the modern utility model has spent decades making people forget. You do not need a dam. You need a drop. The Rural Electrification Administration brought grid power to the countryside. It also brought a monthly billing relationship that has not ended since. The creek-fed generators that worked perfectly well were quietly abandoned. Not because they stopped functioning, because a utility bill became the only version of electricity anyone could picture. So if the physics works and the turbines are cheap and thousands of installations run worldwide, why has almost no one in America heard of this? Start with water rights. In the Western United States, the prior appropriation doctrine, first written into Colorado law in 1872, granted legal ownership of water to whoever claimed it first. For over a century, the state of Colorado made it illegal for homeowners to collect rain that fell on their own property. The legal theory held that every raindrop already belonged to downstream rights holders before it touched the ground. Colorado did not legalize residential rainwater collection until 2016. Even then, the state capped it at 110 gallons per household. Utah restricted collection until 2010. Right now, multiple states still impose limits, permits, or registration requirements on basic rainwater harvesting. Then came the federal layer. The EPA expanded its waters of the United States jurisdiction significantly under the 2015 Clean Water Rule. At its broadest interpretation, the rule created legal uncertainty about federal authority over any rainwater that connects to surface water systems. Homeowners and builders exploring rainwater energy systems found no clear answer on whether their project required federal compliance. Inspectors shaking their heads at plans they had no framework to evaluate, contractors pulling permits that no office knew how to process. The rule was revised in 2020, re-expanded in 2023, then partially struck down by the Supreme Court in Sackett versus EPA that same year. The regulatory ground has not stopped shifting, and uncertainty alone kills a project before the first pipe is laid. Building codes stacked another wall on top of it. The International Residential Code contains no product classification for a gravity-fed micro-hydro system, no testing standard, no fire rating category, no manufacturer warranty on file. An inspector reviewing a rainwater turbine application has nothing to reference in the book. Not because the system fails, because the paperwork was never written for power you do not buy from someone. And that is the core of it. The United States residential electricity market generates over $200 billion per year. The Edison Electric Institute circulated a report in 2013 titled disruptive challenges, warning that distributed generation posed an existential threat to centralized utility revenue. Picture executives in boardrooms reviewing charts that showed what happens when homeowners start producing their own power. Lobbyists in government hallways pushing legislators to roll back incentives. Documented campaigns gutted net metering in Nevada in 2015, then Arizona, then Indiana, and then a growing list of other states. Any technology that lets a homeowner generate electricity from a free resource represents the same category of threat that rooftop solar did a decade ago: sunlight, wind, or water falling off a roof. But here is what no regulation can change. The rain still falls, gravity still works, and the equipment has never been cheaper in human history. A used 55-gallon polyethylene drum costs $15 to $25 at any agricultural surplus store. An inline pipe mount micro turbine with DC output sells for $15 to $30 from electronic suppliers. PVC fittings, a nozzle adapter, and basic wiring add $5 to $10. Total materials for a working proof of concept, $35 to $65. Mount the drum at the highest available point on your property, a deck railing, a second-story platform, or a hillside clearing. Route your downspout into the drum. Pipe the outlet through the turbine into a lower collection barrel or garden drain. Connect the turbine leads to a small 12-volt battery. During a moderate rain event, this system trickle charges your battery enough to maintain a battery bank. Run LED lights through an outage. Keep phones and radios alive when the grid goes dark. Scale to a used 275-gallon IBC tote for $50 to $100. Elevated on a platform or hillside. Add a purpose-built Pico hydro turbine using a Pelton or Turgo wheel design for $100 to $200. Wire in a charge controller and a deep cycle battery for $50 to $200 more. With 15 to 20 feet of head, this system delivers 80 to 130 watts during controlled release. Multiple storms per week in a moderate climate keep your battery bank full. Total investment under $500, less than 2 months of average electric bills for a system that runs on rain. For serious off-grid setups, a 1,000 to 2,500 gallon cistern paired with a commercial Pico hydro turbine like the Power Spout manufactured in New Zealand produces 200 to 500 watts at 50 to 100 feet of natural elevation. This is the performance level documented across practical action installations in 30 countries over 5 decades. Full cost is between $800 and $2,000. That is less than 1 year of average American electricity bills for infrastructure that lasts decades and runs on weather. Before you build, check your local regulations. The National Conference of State Legislatures publishes state-by-state summaries of rainwater harvesting law. Most eastern states have no restrictions whatsoever. Properties with terrain and consistent rainfall have everything they need sitting on the ground already. The power equation was published by the Department of Energy. The turbines are manufactured and sold commercially across 6 continents. Over 3,000 residential scale systems run right now in 30 countries around the world. The physics has been proven for 2,000 years. Roman engineers cascaded water through 16 stone channels at Barbagal, and the math has not changed since. American farm families charge batteries from creek-fed Pelton wheels before the grid ever reached their road. But in most American counties, there is no permit category for a gravity-fed rainwater turbine, no building code classification, no inspector checklist, not because the system fails, because the forms were never designed for power you do not purchase from a company. The rain is free. The gravity is free. The physics has not changed since Rome. Every gallon that pours off your roof and vanishes into the storm drain is electricity you already own. It is falling into the ground because no one told you to catch it. If this opens something for you, subscribe to Off-Grid Ohms with Oliver and hit the bell. The next episode opens soon.